Joel and Clementine have these nasty complaints about each other.
I can't stand to even look at him.
I think she's so desperate and insecure.
As a couples therapist in private practice, I'm going to share with you my analysis of what I think really went wrong. I'm going to share with you 5 points about how they got into conflict and the opportunity they have to get out of conflict based on a crucial risk that Joel starts taking.
I could die right now, Clem. I'm just happy.
The first thing is that couples bring in tendencies and even past emotional wounds into a relationship. So let's take a look at what that is for Joel and Clementine. Starting with Joel. He's shy and unassertive and apologetic.
Hi.
Sorry?
I just said hi.
Hi. Hello. Hi. Sorry. I was just trying to be nice.
He could be depressed, but he does seem somewhat anxious.
Yeah. I don't ever know what to say.
This emotional wound he brings in is about experiences of humiliation and shame throughout his life.
I'm so ashamed. I ran back to the bonfire trying to outrun my humiliation.
Which I think leads him to feel that he might not be acceptable as he is because of these experiences. On the other hand, Clementine is a lot more spontaneous and outgoing. She's also more outspoken and impulsive.
It might be the hair.
What might?
It changes a lot, the color. Can I borrow a piece of your chicken?
And then you just took it without waiting for an answer.
The movie doesn't focus so much on her as it does Joel, but what we can understand about Clementine, she's had past experiences feeling misunderstood by other men.
I just think I'm a concept, or I complete them, or I'm gonna make them alive. But I'm just a fucked up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind.
And at one point, she alludes to feeling concerned about being mistaken as nuts.
Sorry if I came off sort of nuts, so I'm not really.
This could also include her feeling afraid of her needs and her emotions being too much for others, that almost chase people away, which is why I think she refers to herself as high maintenance.
Look, man, I'm telling you right off the bat, I'm high maintenance.
So it's possible that she could struggle with feeling afraid of being unlovable to others. The second point is a big one. When a relationship ends up triggering that past emotional pain of both partners, where it can go awry is if the partners don't deal with that effectively with themselves and with the other. It turns into what can be called in EFT as a negative cycle, where one person's reactions to their own emotional pain being triggered ends up also triggering the other person's emotional pain. Now I'm going to put together how I might think about Joel's and Clementine's conflict and how it ties into this emotional pain they both have brought into the relationship. If Joel is maybe feeling unacceptable to Clementine, if he's feeling maybe humiliated or ashamed, he might deal with that by pulling away, by withdrawing. But when he does that, Clementine might feel rejected. And she could start to feel afraid that her needs and emotions are too much for him. She could even feel unlovable, which could come with maybe a feeling of sadness. She might deal with that by expressing anger and complaining to Joel, which then he might feel criticized and humiliated, which could bring up this core emotional wound again of feeling not acceptable as he is, which then he might deal with by withdrawing, and then she feels rejected and unlovable, and she may then complain and express anger, which then he might feel more humiliated and ashamed and pull away, and around and around and around it could go for them. This led them to a place of being so tense and so constantly on the verge of conflict that they both decided to call it off. There's sometimes that couples tragically fall into this pattern for years without dealing with it, and sometimes end up splitting up or divorcing because of it. And that's the case with Joel and Clementine. They don't actually deal with it, and they end up breaking up and then trying to erase each other from the memory. But that's not the end of the story for them. Joel starts to take this incredible emotional risk with Clementine by bringing her into memories where he felt humiliated, letting her get a glimpse of that core emotional pain he brought into the relationship. So let's take a look more closely at the 3 memories he brings her into. The first is when he was a teenager and pleasuring himself, his mother walked in. The second is when, as a kid, he was pressured into killing a bird, and then he was bullied by this group that was pressuring him to do that.
Don't scare me anymore. Ow!
And the third is actually on the first day that he and Clementine met. A reaction of Clementine's left him feeling really humiliated and ashamed.
You said so, go. With such disdain, you know? Felt like a scared little kid. I was like, It was above my head, I don't know. I ran back to the bonfire, trying to outrun my humiliation, I think.
This is an incredible instance of vulnerability, and even making himself vulnerable about the interaction with Clementine. But this isn't the end of it either, because it also depends on a new response from Clementine that also isn't the negative cycle. So what does Clementine do? Well, let's go through these three memories again. In the first memory, you can tell that she ultimately doesn't mind and that she still values him and accepts him for who he is. In the second memory, Clementine is really there for Joel. She sort of stands up for him, but also takes him away, really helping him have a boundary from them.
Jolie, get up! Come on, it's not worth it. They're not worth it, Joel. La 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 la, he's not listening. Come on, Joel. Stupid.
And then not only that, she's very reassuring for him. She's offering some compassion and understanding for him.
It's okay. You're a little kid.
And then through spending time with him, shows him she still values him.
Like my pink hat? Here, look, feel better.
In the third memory, in a little bit of an indirect way, she shares about valuing knowing what he really feels.
You were scared?
Yeah. I thought you knew that about me.
She also shares an apology about how one of her statements touched on his core emotional wound.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She also further affirms her value for him, talking about how she wishes he had stayed and that she still wishes she could have been with him.
I wish you'd stayed.
What if you stayed this time?
I walked out the door. There's no memory left.
Come back and make up a goodbye at least. Let's pretend we had one.
These three memories are a beautiful example of a couple coming together over one of the partner's emotional pain and what they need. I can imagine Joel finds this as a deeply healing experience. Another thing I think of about this particular example is Joel is bringing in an imaginary version of Clementine into these memories. I take this to mean that he believes at some level that there is a part of the real Clementine who really could give him this sort of response. And based on this, I think it's no wonder that he loves her, and no wonder he wants to try to have a relationship with her, even if there's going to be difficulty.
Bye, Joel.
I love you. Wait.
What?
I don't know.
What
Just
do
wait.
you want, Joel?
Just wait. I don't know. I want you to wait for just a while.
Because he feels that he could really get the acceptance he's really needing for his shame and humiliation. So here's a bonus 6 point that I'm going to give you, which is my recommendations for Joel and Clementine as they embark on this journey of their second time around in their relationship. I think instead of this being an imaginary exercise, that they should both take risks to actually deliberately reveal these kind of emotional wounds to each other. And the best way they could do that is probably with a couples therapist. But couples can and do this on their own. They could take moments to kind of slow down and show them glimpses of what they really feel and what they're really afraid of from each other in a vulnerable way, not in a defensive way. I think this gives them a chance to have a really beautiful, connected, and even healing relationship. If you're a therapist and you want to learn about how to do this with your own couples, click the link below and join me at an upcoming EFT training. If you're not a therapist, you want to learn more about emotions and emotional vulnerability, check out one of my other videos like this.